We're here today with Dr. Demetrus Liggins, who is the superintendent of the Fayette County Public Schools. And I wanted to take a moment, just give you a little bit of background about Dr. Liggins. We're so fortunate to have this gentleman with us. He is bilingual. He is a former English teacher and taught English as a second language in Fresno, California. From there, he went and he's been an assistant principal. He has been a principal of an elementary school. He's been a principal of a middle school, of a high school. He's been a superintendent, area superintendent. He is distinguished, and as I said, he's led programs in world language initiatives in Greenville, Texas, which is where he came from before he came to Lexington. And we've been fortunate enough to have him since July of 21, and blessing that he's been here. And I would also like to mention that he has numerous degrees. He has his degree in English and a baccalaureate in education, and a baccalaureate and a master's in education from Fresno, from California State University. He has a master's degree. He's got 2 master's degrees. And he's got another master's degree from Stephen F. Austin University, and then a doctorate also from the University of Texas at Arlington. So he's been the gamut of everything in education, from a teacher right through superintendent. Welcome, Dr. Liggins. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Absolutely, Judy. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Nice of you to do this. When you think about education and the career that you've already had at such a young age, what was it that made you want to have a career in education?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Really, I grew up, education was my saving grace. I grew up in poverty, and education was really where I thrived. It was place where I felt safe. It was a place where I knew I was going to be fed. It was a place where people cared about me, and I was successful. I was always a good student, and so when I ultimately decided to go to college, I knew I wanted to do something to give back and to make a difference. Didn't necessarily realize it was education until I really started taking some educational classes and thinking back to some of the differences that people have made in my life, and ultimately decided, you know what, I realized that this is a route I want to take. And as I matured and, of course, went throughout my career, I realized that it was really a calling more so than a choice of my own. It was something that I was kind of led to. So I couldn't do anything else even if I wanted to. But education is certainly, it's in my blood. I like to think, although I'm the first person in my family to do so, it's something that I know I was born to do.
Well, I think your record speaks for itself, because in 2020 you were named one of the distinguished superintendents of the United States to watch for, which is quite an honor.
Yeah, it was. It was a great honor to be recognized for the hard work my team and I were doing in my previous district, and really it was an opportunity to spotlight all of that great work and what our kids were able to accomplish under my leadership. So
because
thank you.
Before you came here, you came from Greenville, which you're a native of Longview, Texas.
Yes.
But you came from Greenville, which is a suburb of Dallas, and you took a nice district that, unfortunately, it happens with some districts. They went from a D to a B in just 4 years with you as superintendent.
Yes. It's a lot of work, and just putting things in place, systems in place, and really just, taking care of kids and taking care of teachers and staff, and ensuring that they had what they needed in order to make a difference in the lives of our kids each and every day in the classrooms. And so I'm very proud of the work we did there, and I'll continue to do a lot of that work here in Fayette County to try to make sure that our kids continue to get all that they deserve as well.
You came into a district in July of 2021, which it seems hard to believe. It's been almost 3 years as we're taping now, and it's just a few months away from July. And we'd had a sad experience here when Manny passed away, unfortunately, at a young age. But you managed it well, and you did it also with respect. What factors helped you to accomplish this?
Well, I just think in general, I'm a pretty compassionate person. I pride myself in really listening to understand. And, you have the expression that if you listen to understand instead of listening to respond, you usually get a lot more accomplished.
We could all try that a little bit more.
But I will tell you, I listened. It was a time when not only had the district lost its superintendent. It was in the middle of a pandemic, so there's a lot of loss that had occurred during that time period. And I just really wanted to make sure that we honored the work he had done. I wanted to make sure that we honored the work that everyone had done with working with him, and just make sure that his memory was kept alive. I never had the opportunity to meet him personally. I had heard about him even before he passed, and the work that he was doing here in Fayette County, and really respected the work that he was doing. And so it wasn't far-fetched to come in and to see it with my own eyes, and to make sure that that was honored and respected, and give people the time, the room, and the permission to grieve, and to understand that I wasn't here to replace Manny. I was here to continue doing some of the great work that he was doing, and continue to move the district in a direction that can make us all proud.
Well, I think you did an excellent job of doing that, if you don't mind my
Thank
saying
you.
so. But it was you allowed us to grieve, which is school systems have to grieve too as well for something like that.
Absolutely.
So I think you showed by example.
Thank you.
While we're moving on from the pandemic, it's hard to believe it's been on 4 years since the pandemic, and here we are still using the word. But it's still a factor in many ways, particularly in education, more so than in many other areas. Not that we all weren't affected in some way.
Mm-hmm.
But how are we addressing some of those remaining issues for students here in Fayette County with the pandemic for that particular group?
Well, I will tell you, the pandemic really did a number on our students. And we're seeing it not only through academics, we're then seeing it through their social and emotional well-being and their health, when it comes to just their mental health in general. And we have a robust, not only academic platform and curriculum that really allows our students to get the services they need in order to be academically prepared. But we also, we don't have the numbers to prove it, but we're pretty sure we probably have the lowest, if not one of the lowest, student to mental health professional ratio in the nation. Of all the colleagues I have, no one has as many counselors and social emotional support staff as Fayette County from anyone that I've encountered. And so really making sure that we're taking care of the whole child, and not just working solely on taking care of them academically, but also ensuring that they have someone to speak to should they have any emotional concerns or any mental wellness concerns or issues that they'd like to have addressed. But it's a daily practice that we deal with. Our principals and our teachers are working extra hard now to ensure that we're filling in the gaps, and that we're providing the extra assistance kids may need, and that we're giving kids just individually what they need in order to be successful, not just academically, but in life in general. And just allowing kids that space to fail and to learn from that failure and continue to improve, and allowing them space to understand that it's okay not to be okay, whether that's academically, whether that's mentally, whether that's emotionally, and then taking them from their current space and moving them forward.
You know, when you mentioned it, recently I was at a seminar, and a parent came up to me and we were talking sidebar, and made a comment that kind of fits what you just said about the class that we're now graduating this year. And we'll talk about more about graduates later, and it's just a simple sentence, but it was so profound. She said her son was saying, you know, Mom, my first 3 years, most of the kids I saw were in masks. I'm not going to recognize some of them when I go to a reunion. And he wasn't being funny.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it said a lot of right in that sentence to me, that and the way you're dealing with it, you're helping them continue on, and saying that it's okay to have a problem. And I think that's important.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we're social beings. I mean, we're an institution of learning, but our students learn basically how to interact with others through school. You know, outside of school, you're usually with your families.
Right.
And so this gives them that opportunity to not only learn their academic subjects and content, but it's also to learn about differences and learn about people and to learn about social interaction. So those are all important parts and aspects of the school experience. And so we're glad they get to have that here.
Building on that and leading into the next question,
Uh-huh.
is how are Fayette County School students doing in trying to come back and regain what they lost academically? Because we talked a lot about the mental, and you tied it in there well as well. But what are we doing academically to make up for that year? Possible.
Academically, we have a robust system to where our students are not only learning the curriculum that is required for their grade level, but we have a system which we call a multi-tiered support system that allows students to get individualized support when needed. And it really depends on a kid. Sometimes it's a certain content area, and sometimes it's a certain part of the year. Where some kids are more off than others. And so really taking that individual child and ensuring that they are getting what they need. And it's a tall task for our teachers to take on, because you have 25, 30 kids in a classroom and you're responsible for every single one of them individually. But our teachers differentiate very well and provide the individual services that they need. We also have a strong support system for teachers that will ensure that they have anything that they need in order to, whether it be the resources or whether it be training, to ensure that they too can not feel so overwhelmed with the immense pressures that are placed on educators today in order to make that happen. But we still have kids who are excelling tremendously beyond that year and not necessarily impacted academically. And we have to make sure that we're giving them the services they need in order to accelerate their learning. And we still have students that are struggling and learning possibly below grade level. And we have to also make sure that they're getting what they need and taking care of all those in the classroom day in and day out. It looks different depending on the day, depending on the kid, depending on the classroom. But there's lots of services involved in order to make that happen.
Your concept is the whole child.
Yes, for sure.
Which is really comes through in what you're saying, which backs up some of the awards and programs you've started in other areas when you believe that a student should be prepared for life.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we in education, we don't prepare widgets. We prepare human beings. We prepare the future. These are folks that'll be taking care of us one day. These are folks that'll be
coming soon for me.
I mean, they'll be sitting in my seat. Yeah. They'll be sitting in their teacher seats. They'll be our mayors and our presidents and hospital administrators and doctors and attorneys. And so we have to make sure that we take care of them and make sure that they have everything they need in order to be successful in whatever it is that they want to be successful in.
You've covered a lot of ground in that. So, but I would like to ask you if there are any particular areas that, or one or two that you'd like to mention where you're really concentrating on this, where you could give an example to some of our friends, maybe? Well,
for example, we have
you're doing a lot.
Some very robust partnerships with many community partners. I'll use UK Hospital, for example.
Sure.
We have, through our career and technical education program, we have opportunities for students to start while in high school their college career by doing dual credit to become registered nurses. And they are finishing their programs while in high school. They're getting an associate's degree simultaneously while getting a high school diploma. And they get automatic acceptance into the UK nursing program. And in a couple of more years, when they're 20, they can graduate with an RN degree and have a very lucrative job and career, and also making a difference in our community. So not only fulfilling our mission of educating that child, but also filling, a shortage in our community when it comes to healthcare professionals. And so having partnerships such as that make a huge difference. And we have different partnerships with BCTC, for example, with other similar programs, and all sorts of different things that we're doing in order to ensure that our students are having every opportunity they can to fulfill their wildest dreams, whatever those may be, whether those are going to college and continuing to learn through a traditional setting, or whether those are going directly into the workforce, and we're ensuring that they're having the necessary skill sets and industry recognized certifications before graduating in order to go into a field of their choosing in order to make a difference as well.
Your concept of education doesn't end when the school bell rings.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. It is a full-time, 24/7. Many of our students after school go on to do athletics,
Mm-hmm.
you know, go on to do clubs, on to practice things such as leadership skills that are developed in different programs that we provide. So it is, and we have a community here in Fayette County that really embraces our public schools and support everything that we're doing for our kids. And so we certainly can't do it alone. And so working with our families and our community partners really makes a huge difference in the experience our kids get.
Another area we want to touch on that's so very important today, if not more than ever, is how are we doing at closing the gap? And I hate that terminology, but for this purpose, I'm going to use closing the gap.
Yeah.
That work on inclusiveness and developing programs that really enhance diversity for all of our students. So that, you know, and I know your concept is to bring everybody up to that same level. That comes through with what you're saying. How are we doing with that?
Well, one thing, we have a real focus on in making sure that we have inclusion and ensuring that everyone has an opportunity to participate in whatever it is that they're capable of participating in and how they can excel. We have, as you know, Judi, several choice programs or magnet programs, if you will. And we've really focused on ensuring that those programs look like the students that we serve. And so even in our selection process and in our marketing, to let our families know about these programs. We're ensuring that we're going to all of our communities. We're giving out information in multiple languages and ensuring that everyone's aware that these are options that we offer as a public school system that your child can participate in. And every one of our schools provide a very well-rounded, solid curriculum and educational experience. But, you know, if anyone that has more than one kid realize that there's no two kids alike. And so a kid may very well learn better through a fine arts lens because they're very artistic in a sense. And so a kid may be much more technical and really like to take things apart and put them back together. And so providing those different opportunities for all of our families and letting them know that this is something that you can participate in through a specialized school, or also in our traditional schools, having our teachers trained in those different options is very important. But in addition to that, we also make sure that our students are being able to see themselves in their curriculum. We focus very strongly on ensuring that we have a diverse teacher population, ensuring that our teachers are well trained despite or regardless of what their personal ethnic background or religious background may be, that they understand the diverse student population that we have and are able to teach to that and to reach our students. And our resources are always very rich with different cultures. No longer are our kids just sitting and reading books by old white men, if you will.
Right.
Our libraries are full of diverse text. And that's not only good for kids that can identify with individuals or different diverse backgrounds in those texts. It's also good for those kids that don't identify with it because it gives us perspective of the real world and the diversity that really exists. But and the achievement gap we know is generations old and have existed since the desegregation of schools. But we continue to chip away at that. In fact, this past year, our largest narrowing achievement gap was between our white and black students. And we continue to chip away at that as much as possible. But it comes from many of the things that I just mentioned, being very intentional about ensuring that our students get a wide, diverse experience, regardless of who they are, what they are. Every kid deserves to see themselves and to see others in their learning. And so we try to make that happen.
How can you not benefit when you learn about others and really learn what's going on?
Absolutely. It's fascinating.
If you don't mind, I remember Maya Angelou, the great poet, who said one time she walked into her first school when she was a little kid, before your time, but she was, and she said it was kind of hard to walk around because every picture was white people. There were no minorities. There were no African Americans. There were nobody on the walls. And she said, it can't help but make you feel different. And I had heard her speak years ago, and I never forgot that because I thought, that's so wrong. And she said, put yourself in that child's place. Nobody looked like me. And in fact, I think she wrote a poem about it at one time. but it really, really made you stop and think what you can learn from everybody else. And what we've learned in history about some of the great people we never knew about with the Revolutionary War, and now we're finding all this out. I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
it only enriches your life.
Absolutely.
No matter how old you are.
Yes.
We can never stop learning.
Yes.
We can never stop learning.
I agree.
You've spent over 20 years in education, and including, like I said, being a teacher, a principal, a superintendent. You've been at every level. What continues to give you such a positive attitude? Because it comes through when you talk in education. What keeps you going in education?
Our kids. I mean, if anyone has any doubt that our future is bright, if you just really sit down with our kids, we have some of the brightest, most brilliant, minded, and just genuine, kind, gentle students that you just ever want to meet. So often in media, the worst case scenarios are what's put to the forefront. But being able to be with kids every single day and to see what actual brilliance exists in them, the fact that, what they're passionate about, what they couldn't care less about that some of the older generations do. There's so many things. I mean, the next generation is always better than the previous as far as progressing our world and progressing where we're going to go as a society. And so just really interacting with kids, you can't help but realize that things aren't as bleak as you may think if you're not interacting with real people in real time every single day. And these young people just really inspire me to keep doing what I'm doing and to keep making a difference, and to make sure that they have every opportunity they can in order to fulfill their greatest potential, because they're going to do great things.
I think the word for you is enthusiasm.
Yes, for sure.
Among others, but that one too. As we tape this program today, we're in the beginning of May, so to speak, and graduation's right around the corner. And so I know you'll get asked this question a lot, but what advice would you have for our graduates? Because this is a group that came in during the pandemic and now they're setting out on their own. What advice would you have for them?
Wow. Graduation is certainly the end of their primary educational experience, but it's really, I would advise them that should not be the end of your learning. Stay curious. Find what it is that really makes you tick. What's your passion? What's your purpose? And continue to grow and continue to learn, and continue to do great things, and try to see what it is. By more experiences, you really. I think that's how one develops. This is my purpose. This is why I was put on earth. And that only comes through continuous learning and finding out what it is that you like, you don't like, and what it is that's going to, that you're going to do to make a difference in this world and leave your mark. So keep learning.
Well, now I'm going to go to the other end of the spectrum, because in August, you're going to get a great group of new kindergartners.
Yes,
so what advice do you have to that new parent who's coming in?
Oh, wow. For new parents, get involved. Be a part of your child's education. Do what you can. I realize that every parent is going to be able to be that PTA mom and participate solely in every single event, but do what you can. Instill the value of education in your kids. Our kids are watching, whether we believe it or not. That old saying, do as I say, not as I do. But I mean, it's really, kids are looking at what you do. And so if you place value in education, they too are going to place value in education. And so do what you can in order to make that happen. And teach your kids some independence. Give them responsibility. And bit by bit, age appropriate, but be there for your kids and let them continue to grow. But know that, let them know that education is important and that you value it as their parent.
I used a slogan for many years in a class I taught called "Your children are watching and they're learning from us." And you just
so true.
I built on that right there. Best wishes to your son, by the way, to Ron, who is.
Thank you.
Thank you for
very much.
his service in the Air Force. He's serving in you wait. We'll keep you in our thoughts and prayers.
Thank you.
Before I end our show today, I want to just say something special about Dr. Liggins. And I didn't write this, but I can't say it any better than somebody who did write this. Throughout his career, Dr. Liggins has developed a reputation for having high expectations for success, resulting in stellar results, and for being passionate about reaching youth and providing an environment for students to thrive in schools and in life. He is known for investing in his colleagues and his profession, and he's a frequent presenter at professional conferences and a mentor to dozens of educators. Couldn't say it any better. We're very lucky to have you here.
Thank you so much, Judi. I appreciate it.
Dr. Demetrus Liggins has given us some time today, and I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. I'm Judi Conrad. Thanks for joining us.